Hey guys, for this week's assignment, we listened to a TED Talk by Sherry Turkle. It was called Connected by Not Alone, and it was a really great discussion about how technology is really affecting um, the way that we communicate with um, people. So, one of her main points was that we use what we learn in the virtual world and we really use it and apply it to the real world. And we take it to places that it doesn't need to go. So these devices that we use are very psychologically powerful. And they actually really change who we are. And we use them to do a lot of things that we shouldn't do and do them in a lot of places that aren't appropriate. So, for example, we text and send emails in classes, in business meetings, while driving, all things that really aren't appropriate and shouldn't be done. Um, and we're setting ourselves up for trouble because it's hurting our self-reflection to just be communicating through technology instead of having the interaction with people. It's we do this because we want sense of control, and we're able to control our attention and our interest by being able to sit in a meeting and text an email and only pay attention to things that we want to pay attention to. We can hide even though we're connected. She uses the term Goldilocks effect, meaning that you can get it just right. You don't have to get too close. You can present yourself in a certain way. You can edit, delete, and retouch because you're sitting behind a screen. Whereas if you were verbally, physically communicating with someone, they would be right in front of you. You wouldn't have time to think about it, to be able to change it. You would just have to do it. So this drastically affects human communication. This sacrifices human communication and connections. Connecting is very different from human communications, which is another point that she makes. Connection are just words, they're interest. It's something as simple as saying, I love you. But it's not knowing and it's not understanding. You're compromising the capacity for self reflection. And that is the backbone for development, which is imperative for everyone, especially children. And we're seeing children now getting electronic devices when they're really young. And it's really hindering their communication skills and even their development skills because they're not being able to communicate very well. But so, why are people doing this? People are doing this because they feel like no one's listening to them and they want a relationship with something. They want a relationship with technology. And we see this especially in elderly people because they don't have their loved ones a lot of the time. And so they're actually getting what are called social robots, and they're kind of like companions. And they're given to people because they're vulnerable. And they actually, these robots provide empathy for people, but it's actually kind of contradicting because these robots don't have feelings. They haven't been through life. They haven't seen death. And so Turkle finds this really contradicting because even though they're companions, they haven't been through things. And so they're not really providing you really good company. Another great point that she makes is that we expect so much from technology, but less from each other. You know, we're very vulnerable and we're craving intimacy, and we're getting the illusion of companionship without actually getting real companionship. We're getting control that we want, and we're able to manipulate minds and attention that we want. But at the same time, we're being able to be heard. We can go and press Siri on our phone and be able to have a conversation with her about anything, about our day. She'll tell us stories, and we can do that and not have to worry about someone talking back to us or anything like that. And we can share thoughts and feelings that we have with something as simple as a cell phone. Um, but by doing that, we're actually isolating ourselves from the outside world, because we're actually making ourselves be alone, which I think this her whole talk is actually really great. I actually really agree with it, because if you think about it, it's really true. By putting yourself and immersing yourself in something that um, you may think is, really great technology wise, you're actually isolating yourself from the root of communication, um, which is personal human relationships. And this is especially true in the millennial generation, because we are super obsessed with technology. We're always walking around with technology. We always have our phones on us. We're always on our computers. And it kind of, we're kind of lost without it. Um, and so it's really seen with us. Our book does a really great job at kind of expressing these points. On page 189, it talks about how people can be uppers and downers. And this is really seen when people are hiding behind a screen, because they can either, if they're uppers, they're really positive and really being really nice about people's worth, but if they're downers, then they're kind of attacking a person, being negative, but they're able to hide behind the screen. And that leads to cyberbullying, which is on page 185. And that's becoming an increasingly big problem in schools nowadays. And it's really sad that so many kids are having to worry about how others are viewing them and portraying them on social media and things, and how it's actually really hurting them. But this kind of dichotomy of anatomy and connection, as explained on 197, is kind of this tension between the need for personal autonomy and independence and connection and intimacy, because we want the best of both worlds, basically, and we're struggling to have it. You can't have personal and social intimacy. And as page 191 states, personal relationships are something that's really pure. It's something that means a lot. It's something that's irreplaceable. Whereas social relationships, which technology is mostly based off of, are really replaceable. They're based on things that you have in common with someone. And that's what basically social media is promoting, is those social relationships. On Facebook, you can have thousands of friends, but they're mostly social relationships. You don't really have personal relationships with thousands of friends. So it's really important, this talk by Turkle, to just drive home that yes, technology is great, but we have to use it in a really good way, to use it to kind of get back to our roots of making sure that we're not taking it too far, and to maintain our human relationships and our development skills, all while using the benefits of it, but to not give those things up.